Hi there, I'm Tanya. I'm one of the sewing instructors at Sew Studio, and we are making some online videos to help you guys learn how to use your machines at home. Today I'm going to be doing the Janome Schoolmate 7330. It's the machine that we use for all of our classes in the shop, and it's the same model as the Magnolia, if that's one that you have. So we're going to be learning how to thread it, and I'll be teaching you a little bit about the machine so you can get nice and comfortable at home. All right, thanks. All right, so this is our Schoolmate 7330, same as the Magnolia, this machine that we use in our shop for all of our classes. And I'm going to teach you how to thread it, but first we're going to wind a bobbin because this one doesn't have any thread on it. This is our main thread, and this is our bobbin that goes down here. So we have two threads that are going to meet and tie knots where the needle goes up and down. So when you put your spool of thread on, you want to put the knobby side on first. If you have like a large round spool of thread, sometimes it'll have one side with a notch cut out. So you'll put that side on first, then you'll put your cap on. And when you're winding a bobbin, you want to go around this little silver knob here at the top. There's a little picture that shows you. Get it in between the discs. And then it comes back over this way. And then you want to come from the underneath side and then out through one of the holes on your bobbin. So it comes out the top. And then it goes on this post. Click it to the right, and this should change to say SP. And then when you press your pedal, you hold the tail up for just a minute till it make sure it's winding on that middle post. Then you can stop, trim your tail off, and wind the rest of your bobbin. For this is our speed control. So you can turn it up. And you'll want to wind it till it's totally full, but we're just going to do a little bit right now. So after it's full, pop it back to the left, take it off, and you can go ahead and cut this thread. So there's our bobbin. Now we can take it out of the discs, and we're gonna thread the machine. This stays up here, but it says step 1 goes around this white rectangle piece right here. There's a little map, so that arrow says to go behind that rectangle piece, and then 1 says to go down, 2 has a little U-turn, hook around there, go back up, 3 says to go around this silver latch right here, so you go from the right around to the left, and you want to make sure that it goes through the hole, and it goes back down here. 4 says this little notch thing right there, and that is the hook on the side of your needle, and then it goes through the eye of the needle from the front to the back, which can sometimes take a while. All right, make sure you don't have any loops. It should just go from the front to the back. And then it goes down, you want it under, this is your presser foot, so you want that thread under there. So that one's threaded. Then to thread your bobbin, it goes under here. You're gonna pull this lever to the right, and it should pop up for you. Take that lid off. So you have your bobbin here. And you want the tail hanging off the left side so that it looks like a P, like the letter P. And that's how we are going to drop it in, right in here. And then this little tail, there's a notch right here at the bottom of the casing around the bobbin. So we want it to go through that notch and then off to the back. And then we can put our case cover back on like this. Left side first, pop it down, and then we need to pick up this bobbin thread, and we do that by holding your top thread very gently, and this is our needle up and down button. So we're going to go down, pick up that bobbin thread, back up, and then kind of pull it gently, and you'll see a little loop. So let's pull that loop till the tail comes all the way through, and now you have your 2 threads under the presser foot to the back. You always want to keep your threads to the back so they don't get tangled, and then you're threaded. Next, we'll go over some of the parts of the machine. Okay, so here's our schoolmate machine, and I'm going to show you a few of the most important things on here right now. So we have it threaded. We have our bobbin thread coming from here, our top thread coming off the spool through the eye of the needle, and our threads to the back. One thing that you'll use all the time is your presser foot. That's right here, and there's a little black lever inside of the throat here. If you reach back, there's a little up and down black lever. So every time when you're sewing, you'll put your fabric under and then lower your presser foot, and that's going to keep your fabric from moving around. You do not want to sew with this still in the up position, because your fabric will just bounce around and then you'll get knots in your threads as well. So always remember, this is your presser foot lever. Always put it down before you sew. Other things that we use a lot are these 2 buttons right here. So this one is your needle up and down. So if you're turning a corner, you will want to put your needle down, raise your presser foot, turn your corner, and then keep sewing. So if you press this button right now, and then I start sewing, every time I stop sewing, it'll stop in the down position. So then you just have to bring it back up before you start sewing again. This bullseye is a knot button. So if you press this once, the needle will go down and it will sew in place like 6 times, and that creates a knot for you. Then you have to take your foot off the pedal and press it again to keep going. Instead of this button, I like to use the reverse button. So there isn't like a lever that you push for reverse on this machine. You have to hold this down, and as long as you're holding this down, the machine will sew backwards. So if I'm starting a seam that needs a back tack or a knot at the beginning and end, I will sew forward 3 stitches, then I will hold this down, sew backwards 3 stitches, and then let it go and keep on sewing. And that ties enough of a knot at the beginning and end of a seam. So we don't really use this one, and I don't really use this one, but you can if you prefer an automatic knot button. This we don't mess with much. This is our tension. This is a great feature on Janome machines because it's a speed control. When you press the pedal, it does not control your speed. Your speed's controlled up here. So all the way to the left is very slow, and then you can slide it as you get more comfortable, and once you go faster, you can slide it all the way over to the right. So we like to, especially for beginners, we always start with it on slow. So a few other things you'll see. These 3 buttons are lights right here. This is your stitch number. So these are all the different stitches, all these 30 stitches that this one machine can do. So that's what this number is. Right now we're on 1, which is just a straight stitch here. If we press this again, this tells us the width of a zigzag. So if we're using zigzag, we will change our number over here. We'll go up to 8, and you'll see the needle moving a little bit for all the different stitches. It gets it in position. So we'll set it on 8, and then we'll go down here. 5 is as wide as our zigzag can go, I think. Oh no, it can go wider. It can go up to 7. So that's a very tall or wide zigzag, or all the way back down. We usually leave it around 3.5. So I will put this one back down to our regular straight stitch. And then this third one is stitch length. So if you're doing a basting stitch, you'll want a very long stitch that's easy to take out if you need to. So you'd go down till the light is next to this. 2.2 is our nice average stitch. When you turn on your machine, it should already be at 2.2. But if you're going to be basting, or if you're going to be using the basting to create a gather, you will want to go all the way up to 5. So that's as long as the stitches can get. Just be sure to put it back to 2.2 when you start doing your regular seams again. So that's what these buttons are for. So with all these different stitches, the basic ones are straight stitch, zigzag. A lot of our classes, we like to do decorative stitching, which are like these down here. So all these can be done just on the regular machine. It has buttonholes, different kinds of zigzags and overlock. This lightning stitch is good. It's number 6 here that looks kind of like a lightning bolt. That's good if you're sewing stretch something. It gives it a little bit of a stretch if you're sewing knits on your regular machine and don't have a serger. And then you'll have a special attachment that will do the buttonholes for you. Special buttonhole foot. And let's see, we have presser foot, buttons, speed, thread, stitch selector. Over here, this spins around as the needle goes up and down. But if you were going over something very thick or wanted to go very slow, you can hand crank and turn this towards you. Always turn it towards you, and it will make your needle go up and down. So if you're wanting to go really slow, or it's really thick, or you're trying to maneuver something, you can use this with your hand, turning it towards you to help walk that needle over your project. We've got our cords to plug in here, and the power switch is right here by the cords. And I think that about explains most of the things that the machine can do, and I'll show you just a few things. Okay, so I have a little scrap of fabric here. I'm just going to show you how I put it under the machine, start sewing, and then maybe how we turn a corner here. So I like to line up the edge of the presser foot here with the edge of the fabric here. That gives you a good seam allowance. If you're doing quilting or something like that, you'll want to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. But I think that this is a good, especially for beginners, if you line up the edge of your fabric with the edge of your presser foot and then try to sew it in a straight line, it's a good guide to help keep you straight along the edge. So when I start, I'm going to use this to do my back tack. You always want to do this at the beginning and the end of a seam. So I'm going to go forward 3 stitches, backwards 3 stitches, let it go, and then I will continue on with my seam. So this is on our very slowest setting. You can speed it up just a little bit. And I'm going to stop before I get to this end here because I want to turn this corner. So I will stop here. I can do my needle down. This is going to hold my fabric in place. And when I lift up my lever, I can spin the fabric, turn my corner, put the lever back down, and then keep going. Now that I've pressed this button, it is going to stop in the down position, and I can do my next corner. See, this one wasn't quite close enough to the edge. I'm going to go 2 more stitches, and now I'm lined up perfectly on my edge again. So there's no need to use this in the middle of your stitches. You just want to do it right when you first begin, and then when you end. So I'm going to go right to the end, and then I'm gonna hold my reverse button for about 3 stitches back, and you can see that it's done a little sewing over each other so that it doesn't come unthreaded. So then needle up to take it off your machine, lift your lever, and you want to pull it out to the side, and you want to cut long tails so that your needle does not come unthreaded. Because if you cut them too short, it'll just slip out of your needle. The other thing I was going to show you real quick is if you're sewing a curved line, I'll just go ahead and draw a little curve on here. So if you're sewing a curved line, you have to steer in an arc. So the machine pulls the fabric. You don't have to usually push it or pull it. You're just gently having your fingers on it and just keeping it straight in the direction that you want it to go, and you don't want it getting all bunched up. So when I'm sewing a curve, I like to have both my hands on it and go very slow, and then I just steer, trying to keep it as flat as possible. And so that gives us our nice curved line. If you're doing a very sharp curve, you might need to use your needle up and down button. So if I'm trying to do a sharp curve and the fabric is starting to get bunched up, I'm gonna follow this line. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this down. And then I'm going to do like 2 or 3 stitches, and if it starts getting bunched, lift up your lever, turn it just a little bit, do a couple more stitches, lift and turn, and that will give you a nice curve as well. Up, pull it off to the side. Long tails, and there's your other curve. And that's about it for the schoolmate. I hope you guys have a fun time sewing, and we are here to help you with any questions you might have. Thanks.